poor girl saved the billionaire CEO's mother in a wheelchair, and fate turned her into his daughter-in-law. Before we start, tell me in the comments, from which city are you watching? And at the end, don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story. Clara Winslow was 3 blocks away from the most important interview of her week when she saw the scene that would change her life. An elegant lady in a wheelchair was waiting alone in front of a huge corporate building. Perfect gray hair, beige coat, calm posture. And above her, perched on the streetlight with a wicked look in its eyes, was the fattest pigeon Clara had ever seen in her life. It wasn't an ordinary pigeon. It was the supreme commander of pigeons. The boss. The Don Corleone of city birds. Clara stopped. The pigeon adjusted its position. Looked at the lady, looked at Clara. And Clara swore that bird smiled. "Don't you dare," Clara muttered. The pigeon lifted its tail. Without thinking, Clara dropped her folder and ran. She crossed the street at record speed, dodged a cyclist shouting something about crazy pedestrians, and dove toward the wheelchair like a football player going for a tackle. And then, splat. The sound was wet, the impact artistic, the texture beyond description. Clara froze for 3 seconds, bent over the lady, feeling the masterpiece sliding down her back. She straightened up slowly and smiled. "Hello, ma'am, I'm your human shield." The lady blinked 3 times, completely stunned. "You? What did you just—" "I saved you from a bombing." Clara looked over her shoulder and grimaced. "Mission accomplished. Casualties, 1 blouse and my dignity." The lady looked up, saw the pigeon, now cleaning its feathers like who, me? Then looked back at Clara, covered in bird poop from head to toe, and started laughing. Not a giggle, a real body-shaking laugh. Clara laughed too, because at that point, you either laugh or call city sanitation to collect what's left of your pride. "Oh dear," the lady said, wiping tears. "You threw yourself in front of a pigeon attack for me." Technically, in front of pigeon poop. But yes. Clara tried wiping her hand on her pants. Didn't work. Nothing would ever work for that outfit again. "Consider yourself officially protected." The lady laughed so hard she had to hold the side of her wheelchair to keep from falling. "What's your name?" "Clara. Clara Winslow. And yes, I know it sounds crazy, but that pigeon looked suspicious." "I'm Amelia Reynolds." "Nice to meet you, Amelia. Sorry about the smell. That part wasn't planned." Amelia wiped another tear. "Do you always go around saving strangers like this?" "Only when the universe insists." Clara looked up, and it insists a lot. "Even when it costs you something?" Clara was about to answer, but then she looked at her watch and froze. 7 minutes late. She looked at her folder lying in the middle of the sidewalk, resumes scattered by the wind like sad confetti. Then at the glass building behind Amelia, and read the sign. Reynolds Corp. Clara's smile faltered. "Amelia, that building. It's mine. Well, my family's. I'm the founder." Clara blinked, looked at Amelia, looked at the building, looked at her watch. "I had an interview," she said softly. "There, right now, 7 minutes ago." Amelia's eyes widened. "You missed your interview to save me?" Clara started laughing, but this time the laugh came out tired, shaky. "3rd one this week, Amelia. 3rd. She looked up at the sky. "Universe, I know you have a plan, but could that plan maybe include a paycheck?" A pigeon flew by. Clara pointed at it. "And you feathered villain, I hope you're proud of yourself." Amelia was laughing and crying at once. "Sweetheart, breathe." "I am breathing." Clara turned toward her, arms open, covered in filth. "Look at me, Amelia. I'm a walking modern art exhibit." She stopped, took a deep breath, then smiled, but her eyes glistened for a moment. "Sorry. It's just, I really needed that interview." Amelia took her hand. "You don't have to apologize for feeling. I know, but laughing is easier than crying in front of strangers." Before Amelia could respond, the revolving door of the building opened. A security guard came out, tall, muscular, the kind with a potential problem-detected expression. He looked at Clara, then at the mess, then at Amelia. "Mrs. Reynolds, are you all right?" he asked, stepping closer. "I'm perfectly fine, Dennis." Dennis looked at Clara suspiciously. "And her?" he whispered, but Clara heard every word. "Do you need me to call someone?" Clara blinked. "Hi, I'm right here, you know, and I'm not dangerous, just smelly." Dennis ignored her completely and kept talking to Amelia. "Mrs. Reynolds, with all due respect, you shouldn't let—" he searched for the right word. "Strangers approach you on the street." "She didn't approach me, Dennis. She saved me." Dennis looked up, saw the pigeon, then looked back. From a bird? From a giant pigeon. Amelia corrected, serious. Dennis took a deep breath, the kind that says, my job is really testing my patience today. Mrs. Reynolds, this kind of, he looked Clara up and down, situation is usually a setup. People come up with stories, ask for help, then ask for money. Clara felt her chest tighten. She looked at Dennis. Seriously? You think I staged an attack by a pigeon just to meet a woman in a wheelchair? I've seen it all, ma'am. Then you've seen people covered in bird droppings on purpose? Because I promise you, no one plans that as a strategy. Dennis crossed his arms. I'm just doing my job. And I was just doing the right thing. Clara pointed to the pigeon on the lamppost. That bird was about to turn her into target practice, and I stopped it. I didn't ask for anything. I don't want anything. I just wanted to keep her clean. Mission accomplished. The end. Dennis didn't look convinced. Amelia sighed. Dennis, boss voice activated. She saved my favorite outfit, and possibly my day. So you'll thank her, not interrogate her. Dennis stayed silent. Then, clearly against his will, looked at Clara. Thank you. Clara nodded. You're welcome. And relax, I'm leaving now. Don't worry, I won't take advantage of anyone. She picked up her folder, gathered the scattered resumes, and was about to leave when Amelia held her hand. You're not going anywhere yet. Clara looked at her, confused. Amelia, I appreciate it, but no buts. Amelia pulled a card from her purse and placed it in Clara's hand. Call me tomorrow. We'll talk. Clara looked at the card. Amelia Reynolds, founder, Reynolds Corp. I don't know what to say. Say you'll call. Before Clara could answer, a black limousine pulled up beside them with that smooth, silent elegance only expensive cars have. The rear door opened, and out stepped a man who looked like he'd just walked off the cover of a business magazine. Tall, perfect black suit, dark hair, flawlessly styled, chiseled jawline, and an expression that said, "Who dared exist near my schedule?" He looked at his mother, then at Clara, then at the mess on the ground. He frowned, as if spotting an error in the universe's code. Mother, what is this? Amelia smiled like someone who had just struck gold. Son, this young woman just saved my life. He raised an eyebrow. From what? A terrorist attack? From a pigeon. The man stayed silent for a full 5 seconds, then looked at Clara as if trying to translate an alien language. Clara wiped her hand on her pants, useless gesture, but points for effort, and held it out. Hi, Clara. Nice to meet you. He looked at the dirty hand. Didn't shake it. You threw yourself into this. He gestured vaguely toward the droppings. Why? Clara shrugged. Instinct. Reflex. Hero complex without the superpowers. Pick whichever explanation sounds best. He kept staring at her like he was solving an impossible equation. Amelia cut in. Jacob, she's special. Mother, don't argue. Amelia held Clara's arm gently. She's going to call tomorrow, right, Clara? Clara looked at Amelia, at Jacob, at the card. I will call. Jacob helped his mother into the limousine, but before closing the door he looked at Clara one last time, cold, calculating, suspicious. Just for the record, he said quietly, my mother isn't allergic to pigeon droppings. Clara smiled back. I know, but the risk was real, and worth it. Jacob said nothing, then closed the door. The limousine pulled away. Clara stood on the sidewalk, alone, covered in bird mess, holding a billionaire's business card. No interview, no dignity, but something new in her chest. She looked up. The pigeon was still there, watching like a silent judge. Clara pointed at it. You planned this, didn't you? The pigeon tilted its head. Fine, I accept. But next time, give me a warning. She picked up what was left of her resumes, 3 out of 15, shoved them into the crumpled folder, and started walking home. No rush, no self-pity. Because deep down, Clara knew one thing. When you do the right thing, the universe takes notes. She just didn't know it would pay her back so soon. Clara was half a block from home when she realized 3 things. First, she smelled like she'd lost a fight with a zoo. Second, Amelia Reynolds' card was stuck to her palm like a temporary tattoo. Third, she had completely forgotten she lived on the 4th floor of a building with no elevator. She looked up at the sky. Universe, your sense of humor is way too much. 3 flights of stairs later, each one longer than the last, she finally made it into her apartment. She took off her clothes like she was defusing a bomb, tossed everything into a plastic bag, and sealed it as if it were radioactive material. Shower. Long, hot. 3 kinds of soap. And still she swore the smell lingered. When she finally came out wrapped in a towel, the phone rang. Unknown number. Clara answered. Hello? Miss Winslow? A polite, professional female voice. This is Marina, Mrs. Amelia Reynolds' assistant. Clara nearly dropped the phone. Hi. Yes, it's me, Clara, the incident girl. Mrs. Reynolds would like to see you tomorrow, 9 a.m. in her office. Clara sat down on the bed. Tomorrow? But she said to call first. Mrs. Reynolds asked me to move things ahead. Pause. She was quite insistent. Okay, sure. Tomorrow, 9 o'clock. Perfect. I'll text you the details. Have a good day, Miss Winslow. Click. Clara stared at the phone, then at the business card on the table, then at the sealed plastic bag. Brain, she said out loud. We just got summoned by a billionaire. Is this real, or did I hit my head? The brain didn't answer, but her stomach growled. Message received. Food first, existential crisis later. The next day, Clara stood in front of the Reynolds Corp building at 8:45, 15 minutes early, personal record. She looked down at her outfit, white blouse with a small tear in the sleeve, strategically covered by her watch, black pants that had seen better days, and flats pretending to be professional shoes. Okay. I look employable. 60% employable. She took a deep breath and walked in. The lobby was intimidating. Sky-high ceilings, gleaming marble floors, and a receptionist who looked like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. Clara approached the counter. Good morning. I have a meeting with Mrs. Reynolds, 9 a.m. The receptionist typed something without looking up. Name? Clara Winslow. Typing. Pause. A confused look. You're not on the schedule. Clara blinked. What do you mean? Her assistant called yesterday. Marina. The receptionist finally looked at her, assessing her in 2 seconds flat. Marina was transferred last week. Her tone said, Not my problem. If you're not on the list, I can't let you in. Clara felt her chest tighten, but she called. I answered. She said to come. Maybe you misunderstood. I didn't misunderstand. Clara took a breath. Sorry. It's just, I really do have a meeting. Mrs. Reynolds personally asked me to come. The receptionist sighed, the kind of sigh that meant another crazy person. Look, no record, no access. Company policy. Clara was about to argue when she heard a noise behind her. A woman in a blue jumpsuit was struggling with a cleaning cart full of buckets, trying to push it alone. Clara glanced at the receptionist, already ignoring her, then at the woman, and did what she always did. Need a hand? The woman turned, surprised. You'd help me? Of course. The woman smiled like she'd just won the lottery. Thank you, dear. Nobody ever stops to help here. Clara picked up 2 buckets. Heavy. Wow. What's in these? Liquid bricks? The woman laughed. Just cleaning solution. That should be illegal. They headed for the service elevator. The woman introduced herself as Mrs. Sita. Been working here 15 years. Seen it all. Good people, bad people, people who pretend we're invisible. Clara laughed. I was just treated like I was invisible downstairs. But you stopped to help. That says everything. When they reached the 10th floor, Clara helped her unload. Mrs. Sita looked at her kindly. You're a good one. I hope this place doesn't change that. I don't even know if I'll stay. I can't get past the front desk. Mrs. Sita gave a mysterious smile and took off her ID badge. Here, take this. Say you're new on the team and heading to the 12th floor for supplies. Nobody questions it. Clara's eyes widened. Mrs. Sita, I can't. Yes, you can. I'll cover for you. She winked. Go, before I change my mind. Clara held the badge like it was gold. I owe you one. You already paid me, dear. Clara stepped into the main elevator, pressed 12 and looked at the badge. Okay, Clara, you're sneaking into a corporate building. Totally normal. Completely legal. Zero issues. The doors opened, wide hallway, silent, elegant. And at the end, a door with a golden plaque. Amelia Reynolds, founder. Clara walked slowly, her heart pounding. Knocked. Come in. Clara opened the door. Amelia was behind a huge desk, her smile lighting up the whole room. Clara, you came? I did. Clara stepped inside. Sorry I'm late. Had a few obstacles. Amelia laughed. I figured. The reception here is ruthless. You knew? I knew it'd be tricky. That's why I asked Marina to call before she left, but I forgot to update the schedule. Amelia winced. My apologies, dear. Clara was about to answer when the door opened behind her. Jacob Reynolds walked in, gray suit, black tie, the expression of someone who had just found a system error. He looked at Clara, then at the badge in her hand that said maintenance, then at his mother. Mom, can you tell me what's going on? Amelia smiled, the kind of smile that said everything was going exactly as planned. Son, this is Clara. She'll be working with me. Silence. Jacob blinked 3 times. As a cleaning assistant, Clara glanced at the badge. Oh, it's borrowed. Long story. Jacob looked at his mother, clearly annoyed. Mom, sit down, Clara. Amelia waved toward a chair. Let's have some coffee. Jacob crossed his arms. First day of what, exactly? Personal assistant. Temporary. Clara felt the floor disappear under her feet. You're hiring me? I am. But I didn't even have an interview. You saved my life. That's worth more than any resume. Jacob took a deep breath, the kind that counts to 10. Mom, can we talk? In private? No. Whatever you have to say, you can say in front of her. Tense silence. Jacob looked at Clara. You showed up out of nowhere. Threw yourself at my mother. Now you're here in the office with a fake badge. Tell me. What do you want? Clara felt something tighten in her chest. Not anger. Pain. You want to know what I want? She looked straight into his eyes. I want a job. I lost 3 interviews this week. The 4th one yesterday. Saving your mother. I didn't ask for anything. I didn't expect anything. But your mother offered me a chance, and I'm taking it, whether you like it or not, because I deserve it. Silence. Jacob kept looking at her as if trying to solve a puzzle. Amelia smiled, clearly impressed. She's different, son. Mom. Don't argue. Amelia held Clara's hand. She stays. Jacob looked at them both and sighed in defeat. Fine. But if this goes wrong, it won't. Jacob left without another word. But before closing the door, he looked back, and Clara saw something different in that look. Curiosity. Amelia squeezed her hand. Welcome to the Reynolds family, Clara. Clara felt her eyes sting. Thank you. Really, I don't even know what to say. Say you accept. Clara looked at Amelia, at the badge in her hand, at the future that had just opened in front of her, and smiled. I accept. Clara had exactly 17 minutes to process the fact that she'd been hired without an interview, resume, or anything remotely resembling a normal hiring process. 17 minutes before Amelia said, Let's grab some coffee, dear. I want to introduce you to everyone. And Clara realized everyone meant the entire building. The Reynolds Corp Cafe was the kind of place that made you question every life choice you'd ever made. High ceilings, Italian coffee machines that looked like spaceships, solid wood tables with upholstered chairs, and a menu that included saffron latte with organic oat milk. Clara looked at the price. $8 for a coffee. She whispered to Amelia, who was already in line with her wheelchair. Amelia, I don't have $8 for a drink. That sounds like a spell. Amelia laughed. Dear, you work here now. It's all on the company. Clara blinked 3 times. Free coffee? Coffee, lunch, snacks. Everything. Clara looked up as if talking to some higher power. Okay, universe, I forgive the pigeon. They got their drinks. Clara went for a regular cappuccino because she didn't trust anything with more than 3 ingredients, and sat at a table by the window. Clara took the first sip, closed her eyes. Amelia, this coffee should be legal. Seriously. It needs a warning label on the cup. Amelia laughed so hard she almost spilled hers. I knew you'd like it. Like it. I want to marry it. That's when Clara noticed the odd silence around them. 3 tables of employees were trying to look discreet and failing miserably. A woman in a suit whispered something to her colleague and they both giggled. Clara felt her stomach tighten. Amelia, everyone's staring at me. Let them stare. Amelia sipped her tea calmly. Curiosity is normal. Or they think I'm crazy. If you are, it's the best kind of crazy. Before Clara could answer, someone walked up to the table. Tall guy, perfectly combed blonde hair, navy blue suit. The kind of smile that screamed, yes, I know I'm charming. Mrs. Reynolds. He gave a polite nod like a prince from a fairy tale. What a surprise to see you here. Amelia smiled graciously. Blake, how's everything in finance? Always chasing numbers. He glanced at Clara with sudden interest. And who's your new company? This is Clara, my new assistant. Blake extended his hand. Blake Harrison, nice to meet you. Clara shook it a little too firmly, silent competition style. Clara Winslow, nice to meet you too. He held her hand for a second longer than necessary. Winslow, I don't remember seeing your name in the selection process. That's because there wasn't one. Clara smiled back, sweet but sharp. I was hired on merit. Blake raised an eyebrow. Merit of saving Mrs. Reynolds' life. Silence. Blake looked at Amelia like he was questioning reality itself. Amelia nodded, confirming. Clara saved me from a pigeon attack. Blake blinked 3 times in a row. A pigeon? A huge one. Clara kept a straight face. The boss of pigeons had full villain posture. Blake stayed quiet for 5 whole seconds. Then he laughed, a laugh that didn't reach his eyes. How interesting. You've always been creative with your hiring choices. Before Amelia could answer, another voice cut in. Blake, don't you have work to do? Jacob, he appeared out of nowhere. Clara swore this man could teleport, holding a cup of black coffee, his expression calm but eyes sharp. Blake straightened immediately, soldier style before the general. Mr. Reynolds, I was just greeting your mother's new assistant. Great. Now you can go back to your floor. Blake gave a tight smile, nodded to Amelia and Clara and left. Jacob pulled a chair and sat without asking. Clara looked at him. He looked back. Uncomfortable silence. Amelia sipped her tea, watching them like it was a drama series. Jacob broke the silence. So you're really going to work here? Apparently. Clara took another sip of her cappuccino, still processing it. And what's your experience as a personal assistant? None. Jacob raised an eyebrow. None? Zero. Zilch. Nothing. Clara shrugged. But I'm great at improvising. That's not exactly a resume. I know, but I saved your mother from an aerial attack. Doesn't that count? Jacob looked at his mother in silence. Amelia smiled, confirming every word. He sighed and looked back at Clara. Fine. Let's do a test. Clara straightened. A real test? Questions? Jacob crossed his arms. If you're going to work here, I need to know if you can handle pressure. Go ahead. Jacob tilted his head, thinking. First question, what would you do if my mother had an important meeting and you forgot to confirm the room? Clara thought for 2 seconds. I'd call reception, book another room fast, bring water and coffee before anyone arrived, and pretend it was planned all along. Jacob blinked. That's a good answer. Thank you. Second question, how do you deal with difficult people? Clara laughed. I've worked with the public since I was 16. I've dealt with people complaining about everything. Coffee too hot, coffee too cold, coffee the wrong size. She looked straight into his eyes. I know how to deal with difficult people. The question is, can they deal with me? Jacob said nothing. Amelia coughed to hide her laugh. Third question. Jacob continued, voice lower. Why do you want to work here? Clara paused, looked at her cup, then at Amelia, then at Jacob. Honestly, I'm not sure I do. She took a breath. I came here yesterday for an interview I missed because I was saving your mother. None of this was planned, but, she looked at Amelia with warmth, your mother gave me a chance when no one else did. So I want to work here because someone believed in me, and I won't disappoint her. Silence. Jacob looked at her like she was an impossible puzzle. Amelia discreetly wiped her eyes. Son, Amelia said softly, she's special. Jacob kept looking at Clara, then stood up. Fine, you're hired. Clara's eyes widened. I? Passed? For now. He finished his coffee, but I'll be watching. He left without another word. Clara stared at the door like she'd just survived a police interrogation. Is he always like that? Always. Amelia took her hand. But he liked you. How can you tell? Because he didn't fire you. Clara laughed, nervous. That's a pretty low bar, Amelia. You'll get used to it. That's when Clara heard a voice behind her. Excuse me? She turned, a skinny intern, crooked badge holding an empty wallet and looking at the register with visible despair. Could you lend me $3? He asked quietly, embarrassed. I forgot my wallet at home and haven't had lunch yet. Clara looked into her wallet. $5. Literally all she had left for the week. She looked at the boy, sighed. Here. She handed him the 5. Get yourself a real sandwich. The boy's eyes widened. Really? I'll pay you back tomorrow, I promise. No need. Just pass it on when you can. He left looking like he'd just won the lottery. Amelia looked at Clara with a strange shine in her eyes. You just gave your last bit of money to a stranger. Clara shrugged. He needed it more than I did. Amelia said nothing, but he smiled. And Clara didn't know it yet, but that young man was about to change everything. Because 3 hours later, he delivered Clara's portfolio, the one she had forgotten at the reception, straight into Amelia's hands. And inside, Amelia discovered something even Jacob didn't know. Clara Winslow wasn't just kind, she was brilliant. Clara had exactly 23 minutes before her official first day started when she realized 3 things. First, she didn't own clothes appropriate for a billionaire company. Second, the universe had a cruel sense of humor. Third, She was going to need coffee. A lot of coffee. 7:30 a.m. Clara stood in front of Reynolds Corp wearing the only professional outfit she owned. A black skirt that used to be tight but was now comfortably loose, a white blouse she ironed 3 times but still had a little mark on the shoulder, and heels she only wore to weddings. 2-inch heels, which she hadn't worn in 2 years. She looked at her reflection in the glass door. It's fine. You're a professional. You can walk in heels. You're a corporate gazelle. She took 3 steps, twisted her ankle, grabbed the wall. Okay. Limping gazelle. Still counts. The revolving door opened, and Dennis, the security guard, looked at her with that expression that said, "You again?" "Good morning, Miss Clara." "Good morning, Dennis." Clara waved. "I work here now." "Officially." Dennis looked at the temporary badge she was holding like a trophy. "So I heard," he said, in a tone that meant, "I can't believe this is real." "Congratulations. Thank you." Clara walked through the revolving door, which spun too fast and nearly threw her out again. "I'm fine. Just testing the aerodynamics." She entered the elevator with 5 people in perfect suits, complete silence, and the sound of her heels echoing like an offbeat drum. "Good morning," she said with a smile. 4 ignored her. 1 gave a tiny nod, the universal sign for "please don't talk to me." Clara looked up at the ceiling and whispered, "Universe, I know you're testing me, but I've passed, okay? You can move to the next level now." The elevator stopped on the 12th floor. Empty. Clara was alone. She took a deep breath. "Okay, brain, today will be competent. No disasters, no tripping, no." The doors opened. Amelia was standing there, smiling like someone who had just come up with a brilliant plan. "Clara, you're here." "I'm here." Clara stepped out, tripped on the door frame, and quickly recovered. "All in one piece," Amelia laughed. "Come on, dear, let me show you your desk." They walked down the hall, Clara trying not to twist her ankle every few steps, until they reached a large, bright room filled with neat desks, shiny computers, and employees working in the sacred silence of corporate order. Amelia stopped in front of a desk by the window. "This one's yours." Clara looked. Light wood desk, brand new computer, ergonomic chair, and a little nameplate, "Clara Winslow, personal assistant." Clara's eyes stung. "Amelia, I have a nameplate." "You do." Amelia held her hand. "Welcome officially, dear." Clara was about to answer when a voice spoke behind her. "So it's true." She turned. Blake, blue suit again, smile that didn't reach his eyes, the posture of someone who just found something to criticize. "Good morning, Blake," Amelia said, polite but firm. "Good morning, Mrs. Reynolds." He looked at Clara, and good morning to the new assistant. Clara smiled back. "Good morning, Blake. Still me? Still no pigeons?" He gave a dry chuckle. "Funny," he glanced at her desk. "Do you at least know how to use a computer?" Clara blinked 3 times. "Seriously? You're asking if I know how to use a computer?" "It's a fair question, considering you were hired without the traditional process." "I know how to use a computer, Blake, and I also know when someone's being passive-aggressive." Silence. Amelia coughed to hide her laughter. Blake straightened his tie. "Just making sure. We have standards here." "Great." Clara sat down at her new desk. "I have standards, too, like being treated with respect." Blake was about to respond when Jacob appeared in the hallway. Black suit, gray tie, the look of someone who just left a tense meeting. He glanced at Blake. "Don't you have a report due today?" "Yes, sir. I was just greeting the new employee." "Wonderful. Now go work." Blake left without another word. Jacob looked at Clara. "First day. Try not to blow anything up." Clara saluted. "I'll do my best." He almost smiled. Almost. Then he left. Amelia leaned closer to Clara. "He likes you. He has a very strange way of showing it. You'll understand soon. Now let's begin. First task, organize my schedule for the week." Clara opened the computer, which powered up with the satisfying sound of expensive technology, and looked at the screen. 17 meetings, 9 appointments, 3 social events, and 1 more reminder. Call Jacob and make sure he eats something other than coffee. Clara looked at Amelia. "You remind him to eat?" "Every day. Otherwise he forgets." "He forgets to eat? When he's focused, yes." Clara glanced toward the hallway where Jacob had disappeared. "That man's a robot," Amelia laughed. "He's not. He just forgot how to be human for a while." She looked at Clara warmly. "But you're going to help him remember." Before Clara could process that, the phone on the desk rang. She looked at Amelia in silent panic. Amelia gestured, "Answer it." Clara picked up the phone. "Hello." Good morning, Mrs. Reynolds' office. This is Clara. How may I help you? A man's voice on the other end, irritated. Are you new? Why? Because you answered wrong. Clara looked at the phone. Sorry. How should I have answered? Amelia Reynolds' office, personal assistant speaking. How may I direct your call? His tone was that of an impatient teacher. Clara took a deep breath. Thank you for the lesson. Who's speaking? Blake Harrison. Transfer me to Mrs. Reynolds. Clara pressed the wrong button. The call dropped. She looked at Amelia, wide-eyed. I hung up on him. Amelia laughed so hard she had to hold onto the desk. Sweetheart, breathe. I hung up on Blake. On my first day. The phone rang again. Clara answered, voice trembling. Amelia Reynolds' office, personal assistant speaking. How may I direct your call? And deeply apologize. Blake, still irritated. You hung up on me. It was an accident, I swear. I'm still learning. Silence on the other end. Then, fine. Just transfer me. Clara pressed the right button this time, after 3 tries. She looked at Amelia. I'm a disaster. You're perfect. Amelia wiped her eyes. And I haven't laughed like this in years. Clara was about to respond when a loud crash came from the hallway. She stood up too fast and hit her knee on the desk. Ow, what was that? Mrs. Sita appeared in the hallway, pushing a cleaning cart that had just hit the wall. Sorry, everyone, the wheel got stuck. Clara rushed to help, twisting her ankle halfway there but recovering. Mrs. Sita? Let me help. Clara, you don't have to. I want to. They fixed the wheel together. Clara got completely dirty in the process. When they finished, Mrs. Sita smiled kindly. You've got a good heart, dear. So do you. Clara looked down at her blouse, now with a grease stain. And I've officially ruined my outfit on my first day. Mrs. Sita laughed. You'll do great here. I can tell. She left with her cart. Clara limped back to her desk. Amelia watched her like someone enjoying a live comedy show. You're amazing. I'm a mess. You're both. And I chose you for exactly that. Clara sat down, the chair spun and she almost fell. Amelia, I don't know if I can do this. You already did. Amelia held her hand. Now, you just need to believe it. And in that moment, Clara realized something. She had a desk, a nameplate, and someone who believed in her. For the first time in a long while, she had a place, even if that place included hanging up on people, twisting her ankle every 5 minutes, and becoming a walking meme. She looked at the computer screen. New email. Sender, Jacob Reynolds. Subject, welcome. Try not to break anything in the first month. Clara laughed softly. Challenge accepted, robot boss. She didn't know yet, but the day would be long. She would spill coffee on the keyboard, accidentally lock Amelia in the meeting room, and become a legend on the 12th floor. And Jacob would see it all. And for the first time in years, he would truly smile. Clara had exactly 42 minutes of peace on her first day before she discovered that the internet is fast, ruthless, and has a perfect memory. 42 minutes before her phone exploded with messages. 42 minutes before she became a corporate meme. She was organizing the 3rd drawer of her desk, 12 paper clips and no working pens, when she heard laughter coming from the break room. Not polite office chuckles. Full laughter. The kind that means someone just saw something very funny. Clara looked at Amelia, who was reviewing documents. Amelia, everyone's laughing a lot out there. Let them laugh, dear. It's good for morale. But it's loud laughter, viral level. Amelia looked over her glasses. Viral? Before Clara could answer, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Are you the pigeon girl? Clara blinked 3 times. Okay, that's strange. Another buzz. Another message. Just saw the video. You're a legend. Clara stared at her phone like she just discovered she was being watched. Amelia, what video? Amelia frowned. What video, dear? The door opened. Jacob walked in, holding a tablet, expression somewhere between confusion and something almost like amusement. Mother, Clara. He turned the tablet around. Have you seen this? On the screen, woman jumps into pigeon poop to save elderly lady. Hero or crazy? 3,000 views, 500 comments, and a slow-motion video, slow motion, of Clara diving over Amelia just as the pigeon released its biological bomb. Clara felt the blood drain from her face. Who filmed this? Jacob shrugged. Security camera in front of the building. Someone downloaded it and posted it on the company's internal group. Internal group? 400 employees. Jacob almost smiled. Almost. You're famous now. Clara covered her face with her hands. I'm going to become a corporate meme. Amelia grabbed the tablet and watched the video. then started laughing. Not a giggle, a full, unstoppable laugh, tears and all. Amelia. Clara stared at her, shocked. You're laughing at me. I'm laughing with you. Amelia wiped her eyes. Sweetheart, look at this. You look like a clumsy superhero. Jacob swiped the screen. The comments are interesting. Clara snatched the tablet from his hand. Read aloud, she jumped like a secret agent. Total respect. This woman's got guts. Someone hire her forever. Who is she? I want to be friends. Clara paused, looked again. Wait, they're complimenting me? Jacob crossed his arms. Apparently you're the office's new favorite. But I only worked half a day and made more impact than half the staff in a year. He gave her a look, as if studying a strange phenomenon. Congratulations, you broke the record. Before Clara could reply, the door opened again. Blake. Fake smile. Sharp eyes. So the internet star is here. Clara sighed. Blake, if you're here to make fun of me. Make fun? Me? Never. He leaned on her desk. Just came to say congratulations. Not everyone becomes a meme on their first day. Thanks, I think. Blake showed her his phone. Another video, same footage, but edited. With dramatic action movie music. Zoom on Clara's face. A digital explosion when the pigeon drops its bomb. Caption, when you take your job too seriously. Clara looked, then looked again, and burst out laughing. She laughed so hard she had to sit down. I have a Mission Impossible soundtrack. She wiped her eyes. Who made this? Blake shrugged. Someone from marketing. Creativity's never a problem here. Jacob took Blake's phone and watched. And for the first time since Clara met him, he smiled. A small, real smile. Okay, that's genius. Clara looked at him like she'd just seen a miracle. You smiled. Jacob Reynolds smiled. He quickly straightened his tie, regaining composure. I did not. You did. Amelia, he smiled. Amelia clapped her hands like a kid watching a magic trick. I saw it. I saw it. Jacob tried to look serious again. I was simply acknowledging good editing. You smiled because of me. Clara pointed at him. I made the robot smile. I'm not a robot. Prove it. Smile again. No, please. No. Jacob looked at her for 3 full seconds, then left the room without a word. But Clara swore she saw the corner of his mouth twitch, like someone trying not to laugh. Blake looked at her, half confused, half amused. You're strange. Thank you. Clara smiled. I'll take that as a compliment. Blake shook his head and left too. Amelia held Clara's hand. Sweetheart, you're magical. I'm embarrassing. You're both, and I love you for it. Clara felt her eyes sting. Amelia, no one's ever said that to me before. Then I'll say it every day. Amelia squeezed her hand. You brought life back to this place, and to me. Before Clara could reply, her phone buzzed again. Message from an unknown number. Hi, I'm the intern you helped yesterday. Saw the video. You're amazing. Thanks again for the $5. I owe you lunch. Clara smiled. Typed back, you don't owe me anything, but I'll take lunch. She put her phone away and looked at Amelia. You know, maybe becoming a meme isn't so bad. It's not. Amelia winked. It's free marketing. 3 hours later, Clara was in the break room getting some water when she heard voices. 2 women talking near the coffee machine. Did you see the video of the new assistant? I did. She's hilarious. But is she competent or just funny? Clara froze, hidden behind the fridge. I don't know, but Blake said she was hired without an interview. Really? Really? Mrs. Reynolds hired her just because she saved her from a pigeon. Laughter. A pigeon? Can you imagine? Must be some kind of connection. Maybe she knows someone. Clara felt her chest tighten. She took a deep breath, then stepped out from behind the fridge. The 2 women froze. Hi. Clara smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I'm the new assistant, the one with the pigeon. Awkward silence. And just to be clear, I don't know anyone here. I don't have connections. I was just in the right place at the right time and did the right thing. She grabbed the glass of water. And if that's not good enough for you, that's your problem, not mine. She walked out of the break room without looking back, hands trembling, heart racing, but head held high. Because Clara Winslow wasn't about to let anyone dim her light, not even the fear of not being good enough. She went back to her desk, sat down, took a deep breath, and saw a sticky note on her monitor. You're stronger than you think. A. Amelia's handwriting. Clara smiled. And in that moment she realized something. She didn't have to prove anything to anyone, only to herself. And she had already started. 3 floors above, Jacob watched the video again on his computer. And smiled. For real. Because for the first time in years, someone had made that building feel alive. And her name was Clara Winslow. The next day, Clara got some worrying news. She had exactly 3 hours and 27 minutes to process the fact that Amelia was sick, couldn't attend the most important charity dinner of the year, and that she, Clara Winslow, the pigeon girl, would have to represent the Reynolds family at an event full of people who probably had more money in their wallets than she had in her entire bank account. 3 hours and 27 minutes before complete panic. "Amelia, I can't go." Clara paced around the office like a tiger in a small cage. "I don't even know how to hold a fork properly." Amelia was resting in her chair, wrapped in a blanket, ginger tea on the table, with that look that said everything was already decided. "Dear, you'll be fine. I'm going to spill something. I always spill something, then spill it with style. Amelia, that's not advice, that's acceptance of disaster." Amelia laughed and coughed right after. "Clara, breathe. You just have to go, smile, shake a few hands and come back. Simple." Clara stopped pacing, looked at Amelia like she'd just heard an impossible mission. "Simple. You said simple." She pointed to her outfit, jeans and a blouse with a coffee stain. "Amelia, I don't have clothes for a gala event." "I know." Amelia picked up the phone. "That's why I called Sophia." "Who's Sophia?" The door opened, and in walked a woman who looked like she had stepped straight out of a fashion magazine. Perfect black hair, designer glasses, carrying 3 huge shopping bags with logos Clara had only ever seen through store windows she couldn't afford. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Reynolds." Sophia smiled like she'd just been given a fun assignment. "I heard we have a Cinderella to transform." Clara looked at the bags, at Sophia, at Amelia. "Wait, you brought clothes for me?" 3 options. Sophia set the bags on the table. "All your size, plus shoes, accessories, and a makeup artist arriving in an hour." Clara's jaw dropped. "A makeup artist? Of course." Sophia pulled the first dress from a bag like a magician revealing a trick. "You're representing the Reynolds family. You have to look the part." Clara stared at the dress. Navy blue, elegant, long, like a grown-up fairy tale princess. "How much does this cost?" "About 3 months' rent, to be exact." Sophia winked. "But who's counting?" "I am. I'm counting." Clara grabbed her head. "Amelia, this is insane. It's necessary." Amelia stood up carefully and took Clara's hands. "Dear, I trust you, and you're going to be amazing." Clara felt her eyes sting. "And what if I mess everything up?" "Then you mess it up with style." Amelia smiled. The Clara Winslow way. An hour and 40 minutes later, Clara stood in the women's restroom on the 12th floor, wearing the navy blue gown, heels that felt like medieval torture devices, and makeup that made her look like a sophisticated version of herself. She looked at the mirror. "Okay, you can do this. You're a secret agent in disguise. James Bond in high heels." She took 3 steps, twisted her ankle. "Grab the sink for balance, okay." James Bond still learning how to walk. The restroom door opened. Mrs. Sita walked in, pushing her cleaning cart. Because the universe has perfect timing, she looked at Clara. Stopped. Blink, blink, blink. "Girl, you look stunning." Clara turned, almost tripped. "Really? I don't look like an imposter? You look like a lady." Mrs. Sita gently fixed Clara's hair with motherly care. "Go out there and show them who you are." Clara hugged her, wrinkled the dress, but didn't care. "Thank you, Mrs. Sita. Go on, dear. And remember, stand tall, smile, and if someone's rude, step on their foot by accident." Clara laughed, noted. The event was at a 5-star hotel, 20 minutes from the company. Clara was already in the lobby, holding the tiny clutch Sophia had lent her, the one that couldn't fit anything useful inside, when a black car stopped out front. The door opened. Jacob stepped out. Black tuxedo, bow tie, perfectly combed hair, and that expression of someone ready for a business meeting, not a social event. He looked toward the hotel entrance, checked his watch, then looked at Clara, and froze. Literally stopped moving for 3 full seconds. Clara gave a nervous wave. "Hi, it's me, the fancy version." Jacob walked toward her slowly, as if processing the impossible. He stopped in front of her, looked her up and down, not inappropriately, but definitely noticing. "You look different. Different good, or different, call security." He almost smiled. Almost different good. Clara felt her face warm. "Thanks." Sophia worked her magic. Corporate fairy godmother. Jacob kept looking at her like he was trying to solve a complicated equation. "My mother convinced you to come." "Your mother is very convincing." "I know." He offered his arm. Ready? Clara looked at his arm, at the hotel, at her reflection in the glass door. No, but let's pretend I am. He gave that almost smile again. And Clara realized something. Jacob Reynolds in a tuxedo was a walking danger to any unprotected heart, including hers. The event hall looked straight out of an Oscar movie. Crystal chandeliers, tables decorated with expensive flowers, waiters carrying champagne trays, and people dressed like Forbes magazine covers. Clara held onto Jacob's arm like an emotional anchor. "Jacob, I don't belong here. No one does." He glanced around with that neutral expression. "Everyone just pretends really well. That doesn't help." Before he could reply, a couple approached. A man around 60, in a flawless gray suit, and an elegant woman in a red dress. "Jacob," the man said, extending his hand. "So good to see you." Jacob shook his hand with automatic professionalism. "Mr. Castellano, Mrs. Castellano." He looked at Clara. "This is Clara, my mother's assistant." Clara extended her hand, praying it wouldn't shake. "Nice to meet you." Mrs. Castellano gave her that assessing look rich women have. "Assistant?" She glanced at Clara's arm linked with Jacob's. How interesting. Clara could feel the tension in the air like invisible fog. "Mrs. Reynolds couldn't come tonight, so I came to represent her." "I see." Mrs. Castellano took a sip of champagne. "And you and Jacob are?" Awkward silence. Clara looked at Jacob. Jacob looked at Clara. And then, without warning, he said, "Engaged." Clara choked on her own breath. "What?" Mr. Castellano's eyes widened. "Engaged. Jacob, you never mentioned. It's recent." Jacob placed his hand on Clara's waist as if it were natural, but she felt the firm pressure. "Play along." Clara looked at him. "Are you insane?" He looked back. "Trust me." Mrs. Lake Castellano smiled like she'd just found the gossip of the year. "That's wonderful. Congratulations." "Thank you," Clara said, her voice 3 octaves higher than usual. "It's surprising. For me too." Jacob gave a light squeeze to her waist. Translation: stop talking. They talked for 5 more minutes, which felt like 5 hours, and when the couple finally left, Clara turned to Jacob. "Engaged? You told them we're engaged? Keep your voice down." Jacob looked around. "They're investors. They thought you were a paid escort." Clara blinked 3 times. "Escort? Wait." "Exactly. And I wasn't going to let them think that about you." Clara felt something strange in her chest, something warm, something dangerous. "You defended me. I protected the company's reputation. You called me your fiancé." Jacob looked at her, and for the first time, Clara saw something different in his eyes, something that wasn't just professionalism. "Sorry." His voice was quieter. "I didn't think. It was instinct." "It's okay." Clara smiled, crooked and nervous. "Just give me a heads up next time you decide to marry me without warning." He almost laughed. Almost. And in that moment, Clara realized she was completely, hopelessly, disastrously in love with Jacob Reynolds. And that was going to complicate everything. Clara had exactly 12 hours to process the fact that she'd pretended to be Jacob Reynolds' fiancé in front of billionaire investors, survived a gala dinner without spilling anything, a miracle, and was now being summoned to his office at 8 in the morning. 12 hours before discovering the universe had a very peculiar sense of humor. She knocked on Jacob's office door 3 times, because 2 felt too few, and 4 was excessive. "Come in." Clara opened the door. Jacob was behind his massive desk, gray suit, no tie. First time she'd seen him like that. Hair slightly messy, the kind that says, "I woke up 15 minutes ago." And he was smiling. No. Wait, it wasn't a smile. It was the look of someone who just had a brilliant and slightly insane idea. Clara sat down slowly. "Jacob, why do you look like a movie villain who just came up with a plan?" He tilted his head. "Do you trust me?" That is literally the worst way to start a conversation. Jacob almost laughed. Almost. He slid a black folder across the desk. Clara looked at it like it was a disguised bomb. "What's this?" "A solution." "A solution for what?" "For the fact that now half of the company's investors think we're engaged." Clara felt the color drain from her face. "Wait, half?" "The Castellanos told everyone at the event." Jacob crossed his arms. "My inbox has been exploding with congratulations since yesterday." "Jacob," Clara covered her face with both hands. "They're gonna find out I'm a fraud." Or, Jacob pushed the folder closer. "We turn the lie into the truth." Silence. Clara slowly lowered her hands. "What?" "Temporarily." He opened the folder. 6 months. Fake engagement. Full contract. Mutual benefits. Clara blinked 3 times. "You're asking me to marry you." "Fake." Technically, I'm offering you a business arrangement. That's the same thing. Jacob sighed, like a teacher explaining math to a stubborn student. Clara, the board is pressuring me. They want me to stabilize my public image. Serious relationship, engagement, family. He made a face. That kind of thing. And you thought, oh, I'll just pick my mother's assistant who can barely walk in heels? I thought she already pretended to be my fiancée in front of investors and did it perfectly. Clara felt something strange in her chest. Something dangerous. Perfectly? Jacob looked at her like he was admitting a reluctant truth. You fit better than anyone I could have hired. Hired? You were going to hire a fiancé? That was option 2, and I'm option 1? Technically, you're the improvised solution that worked. Clara looked at the folder, then at Jacob, then at the invisible universe, clearly mocking her. Jacob, this is crazy. I know. Certified crazy. I know. You're asking me to pretend to be your wife for 6 months. Technically fiancé, the marriage would only exist on paper. Clara stood up, walked to the window, tripped on the rug, recovered, looked out at the city below, took a deep breath. Okay, let me get this straight. She turned around. You want me to pretend to be your fiancé? Yes. Live in your house, separate rooms, attend events, occasionally, and lie to everyone for 6 months? Jacob stood too. He walked up to her, stopped about 3 feet away, too close to be professional, too far to be intimate. Clara, his voice was calm, serious. I know it's a lot, but I need this, and you need stability. Clara blinked. What do you mean? Your contract with my mother is temporary. 3 months. He crossed his arms. If you accept this, I'll give you a permanent position, inherit double salary, full benefits. Silence. Clara felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. You're trying to buy me? I'm offering you security. Jacob didn't look away. 6 months of pretending, then we move on. No drama, no complications. No feelings? Clara's voice came out softer than she wanted. Jacob stayed silent for 3 seconds. No feelings, and that's when Clara realized something terrible. She already had feelings. He didn't. She looked back at the folder. Can I read it? Of course. Clara sat down again, opened the folder, and began to read. Temporary relationship agreement. Clause 1. Duration of 6 months, renewable by mutual consent. Clause 2. Public appearances as needed. Corporate events, dinners, social gatherings. Clause 3. Shared residence. Separate bedrooms, private spaces respected. Clause 4. Compensation. $8,000 monthly salary plus full benefits. Clause 5. Complete confidentiality. Breach of contract results in legal penalties. Clause 6. Physical relationship. Optional and only with explicit mutual consent. Clause 7. Amicable termination at the end of the period. No future obligations. Clara read Clause 6 3 times, then looked at Jacob. You included physical relationship optional? He didn't look away. I'm not going to force you into anything, ever. But if we wanted to, she felt her face heat up. We could? Jacob stayed silent for a moment, then gave that almost smile. If you wanted, we could. The air grew heavier. Clara cleared her throat, trying to focus. Right, okay, good to know. Noted. She went back to the contract like it was a lifeline. And Clause 7, amicable termination. That means we just end it and that's it? Exactly, we go back to our normal lives. And if? Clara bit her lip. And if we don't want to end it? Silence. Jacob looked at her like she had just asked a dangerous question. Clara? Forget it. She closed the folder too quickly. Stupid question. Of course we'll want to end it. It's fake. It's temporary. She took a deep breath, just business. Jacob kept looking at her, and Clara swore she saw something in his eyes, something that wasn't entirely professional. But before she could figure it out, he turned back to his desk. You have 24 hours to decide. Clara stood up, legs shaky. And if I say no, then I'll respect it. And we'll continue as before. And if I say yes, Jacob looked at her over his shoulder. Then get ready, because pretending to be my fiancé will be the hardest job you've ever had. Clara laughed, nervous, high-pitched. Harder than surviving a homicidal pigeon? He almost smiled. Much harder. Clara left the office, holding the folder like a secret document. Her heart was racing, her mind spinning, and one certainty growing inside her. She was going to say yes. Not for the money. Not for the stability. But because 6 months pretending to love Jacob Reynolds was better than a lifetime never trying. Even if it hurt later. Even if it was madness. She looked at the folder. Took a deep breath. Okay, universe. You win. I accept the impossible mission. 3 floors below, Amelia was reading the same contract which Jacob had sent for her approval, and smiled like someone watching fate line up perfectly. 6 months, she murmured. I bet they won't last 3 before falling for each other. And she was right. But no one knew yet that Blake was listening outside the door, and that he had plans of his own. Clara had exactly 18 hours to process the fact that she'd signed a fake marriage contract, moved into Jacob Reynolds' penthouse with a closet the size of her entire apartment, and was now being called into his office with the message every employee fears. We need to talk. Urgent. 18 hours before she discovered that Blake had turned sabotage into a corporate sport. She walked into Jacob's office at 9 sharp. A personal record for punctuality. He was standing in front of his desk, arms crossed, wearing the kind of expression that said, "Someone's about to pay for this." And on the computer screen, open for everyone to see, an internal email. Subject line, "Irregularities in personal assistant hiring process." Clara felt her stomach drop. "Jacob, what is this?" He turned the screen toward her. Clara read aloud, voice trembling. "I would like to report concerns regarding the recent hiring of Miss Clara Winslow. No formal selection process, no reference check, and placement in a sensitive position alongside the company's founder. I request an internal investigation to ensure compliance with HR policies." Clara looked at the signature at the bottom. Blake Harrison, Chief Financial Officer. She felt her blood boil. He reported me? Technically, he reported the process. Jacob shut the laptop with more force than necessary. "But the target is you." Clara started pacing like a caged tiger. "I knew it. I knew he didn't like me. That fake smile, that welcome aboard talk." She looked up at the ceiling. "Universe, are you seeing this? I helped Mrs. Sita. I bought coffee for the intern. I saved your mother from a homicidal pigeon. And still, someone wants to take me down?" Jacob almost smiled. Almost. "Clara, breathing." She pointed to the screen. "But it's an indignant kind of breathing. The breathing of someone being wronged." "I know." "You know? Then do something." Jacob walked toward her, stopping half a meter away. "I will. But I need you to trust me." Clara looked at him like he'd just asked for the impossible. "Jacob, they're going to investigate me. They'll find out I have no experience, that I was hired because I saved your mother from a bird." She sat down and covered her face. "I'll be fired. I'll be a joke. You'll stay." His voice was firm, leaving no room for doubt. Clara lowered her hands. "How do you know?" "Because I decide who stays, not Blake." Jacob leaned on the desk, eyes fixed on her. "And you're not going anywhere." Silence. Clara felt something strange in her chest. Something warm, something dangerously close to hope. "Why are you defending me?" Jacob stayed quiet for 3 seconds. "Because you're good at what you do. I spilled coffee on the keyboard my first day, and fixed it yourself in 15 minutes. I accidentally locked your mother in the meeting room, and she laughed so hard she said it made her weak. I became a corporate meme, and the company's morale has never been higher." Jacob crossed his arms. "Clara, you brought life to this place. People like you, and that's worth more than any resume." Clara felt her eyes sting. "Jacob." Before she could continue, the door opened. Blake walked in without knocking, because corporate villains never do. "Jacob." He looked at Clara like he had just found evidence of a crime. "Miss Winslow. How convenient to find you two together." Clara stood up, shaky knees but straight posture. "Blake, how convenient that you show up right after sending an email trying to sabotage me." He gave that little smile that never reached his eyes. "Sabotage? I simply raised legitimate concerns." "Legitimate?" Clara took 3 steps toward him. "You're jealous because I got hired and you can't control that." Blake raised an eyebrow. "Jealous? Of a temporary assistant with no qualifications?" "No qualifications?" Clara felt anger rise like lava. "Maybe I don't have 10 diplomas on the wall, but I have something you'll never have. And what would that be?" "Humanity." Clara threw her arms open like she was giving a sermon. "I treat people like people. I help those who need it. I don't spend my time looking for ways to bring others down just to feel important." Silence. Jacob looked at Clara like he had just seen a lioness roar. Blake adjusted his tie, uncomfortable. "How dramatic." "Dramatic?" "You sent an email to the entire HR department accusing me. That's what's dramatic." Blake turned to Jacob. "Are you going to let her speak to me like that?" Jacob gave a dangerous half-smile. I'm going to let her speak the truth. He walked until he stood beside Clara. And the truth is, you're afraid. Blake blinked. Afraid? Of what? Of change. Jacob crossed his arms. You've worked here for 8 years, always been the board's favorite, always had control, and now a woman shows up, becomes the company's darling in 3 days. He looked at Clara with something that almost resembled pride. And you can't handle it. Blake's face turned red. That's ridiculous. It's true. Jacob didn't look away, and if you send one more email like that, I'll personally review all your hires from the past 5 years. I'm sure I'll find a few interesting irregularities. The silence was heavy. Blake looked at Jacob, then at Clara, then back at Jacob. You're choosing her over the board? I'm choosing what's right. Blake gave a short, bitter laugh and muttered something like, You'll regret this. Then he slammed the door on his way out. Clara stood there frozen in shock, then turned to Jacob. You just defended me in front of him. I defended the truth. You threatened the finance director because of me. Jacob looked at her as if he couldn't see the problem. And, Jacob, you risked your reputation. My reputation can handle it, he shrugged. Your dignity shouldn't have to handle unfair attacks. Clara felt something break inside her. Something she had been holding back for years. The tears came before she could stop them. No one's ever defended me like that. Jacob stayed silent, then slowly placed a hand on her shoulder. Then the people around you were blind. Clara looked at him through tears. And Jacob Reynolds, the robot CEO, the man who never smiled, the workaholic without a heart, wiped a tear from her cheek with his thumb. A small gesture, a light touch, but it changed everything. You're not getting fired, he said softly. I promise. Clara felt her heart race like a marathon. Why? Why do you care so much? Jacob was silent for a moment. He looked at her like he was trying to solve an impossible equation, then said the sentence that would change everything. Because you remind me of what I forgot to be. Before Clara could react, Jacob's phone rang. He answered, his expression shifting instantly. What? When? He hung up and looked at Clara. My mother. She's in the hospital. Clara felt the world stop. What happened? She got sick at home. The ambulance already took her. Jacob grabbed his keys. Come with me. They ran to the elevator. Clara tripped twice. Jacob caught her. Got in the car. Jacob drove like a race car driver. And halfway there, Clara held his hand. She's going to be okay. Jacob didn't answer, but he squeezed her hand back. And Clara realized something. Fate wasn't done testing them yet. Because when they arrived at the hospital, who was waiting in the lobby, smiling like he had just won the lottery? Blake. And next to him, a woman in a red suit Clara had never seen before. But it was clear she wasn't there to help. Mr. Reynolds, the woman said, extending her hand. I'm Dr. Helena Carvalho from Internal HR Audit. We need to discuss some contractual irregularities. Jacob looked at Blake. Blake smiled back, and Clara understood the war had officially begun. Clara had exactly 5 seconds to process 3 impossible things happening at once. First, Amelia was in the hospital. Second, Blake was smiling like a villain who had just won. Third, an HR auditor had just appeared out of nowhere to investigate contractual irregularities. 5 seconds before her brain completely short-circuited. Dr. Carvalho, Jacob said, in his best corporate ice voice, with all due respect, my mother is in the hospital. Any HR discussion can wait. The woman in the red suit adjusted her glasses like a teacher who didn't accept excuses. Mr. Reynolds, I understand there's a family situation, but contractual irregularities are a compliance issue. The board insists. The board can wait. Clara burst out before she could stop herself. His mother's in the hospital and you're worried about paperwork? Silence. Dr. Carvalho looked at Clara as if she'd just found new evidence. And you must be Miss Winslow. That's right, and if you want to investigate me, fine. But do it after we know Amelia's okay. Blake let out that dry little laugh. See, Dr. Carvalho? Completely unprofessional. Clara turned toward him like a lioness ready to pounce. Unprofessional? You sent an auditor to the hospital where your boss's mother is being treated. That's what I call heartless. I'm just following protocol. Protocol? Clara took 3 steps toward him. Jacob grabbed her arm like an anchor. Does your protocol have a heart, or is it just paper and cruelty? Before Blake could respond, a nurse appeared in the hallway. Family of Reynolds? Jacob released Clara and rushed to her. That's me. How is she? Stable. It was a drop in blood pressure. She's awake and asking to see you both. Clara's knees nearly gave out with relief. Jacob exhaled like someone who'd just survived a heart attack. Can I see her? Yes, room 304. The nurse looked at Clara. She also asked for the pigeon girl. Clara blinked 3 times. The nurse smiled. She won't stop talking about you. Clara's eyes burned. Jacob grabbed her hand, quick but firm. Come on. They headed down the hallway, leaving Blake and the auditor behind. But before turning the corner, Clara looked back and shouted, "And Blake, karma is real. Write that down." Room 304 was small, smelling of hospital and bright with fluorescent light. Amelia lay in bed like a tired queen still in command. She saw Jacob and smiled, then saw Clara, and her eyes lit up. You came. Clara rushed to the bed, tripped on the IV line, caught herself. Of course I came. You think I'd stay home watching shows while you're here? Amelia laughed, then coughed. Dear, you're yelling again. I know, I get nervous and my volume just happens on its own. Jacob pulled a chair beside the bed and held his mother's hand. Mom, you scared me. Sorry, son. Amelia squeezed his hand. It was just a scare. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're in the hospital. Technically, I'm better, because now you're both here together. She looked from Clara to Jacob, a mischievous smile on her face. Taking care of me, like a real couple. Clara's face turned red as an oven. Amelia, we're not yet, Amelia added with a wink. Jacob sighed, the mom please kind of sigh. Before anyone could reply, the door opened. A delivery man stepped in, holding a huge bouquet of flowers. Delivery for Amelia Reynolds? Amelia raised her hand. That's me. He set the flowers on the bedside table, then looked at Clara and froze. Wait, you? Clara blinked. Do I know you? You saved me. He took off his cap, smiling wide. 3 months ago, I was being kicked out of a building for delivering to the wrong floor, and you convinced security to let me fix it. Clara's eyes went wide. You're Marcos, the pizza delivery guy. That's me, he laughed. And you saved my job that day. By day I deliver flowers, by night pizza. I never forgot. Jacob looked at Clara, surprised. You did that? Clara shrugged, a little embarrassed. He was being treated badly. I just said everyone makes mistakes and deserves a second chance. Marcos nodded, grateful. Because of you, I didn't get fired. And today, he looked at Amelia. I was delivering flowers near her house when I saw a lady fall from her wheelchair. I called for help, and it was her. Silence. Clara looked at Amelia. Amelia looked at Clara. Jacob looked at both, as if the universe had just aligned. You saved my mother? Jacob asked quietly. Marcos nodded. I did. And if this lady hadn't helped me months ago, he smiled at Clara, I wouldn't have been there today. Clara's jaw dropped. Wait, you're saying because I helped you 3 months ago, you saved Amelia today? Exactly. Marcos grinned. Karma is real, miss. Write that down. Clara started laughing. Not a small laugh, a full, disbelieving, can't believe this is real laugh. I said that to Blake just now. I literally yelled, Karma is real. She looked up. Universe? You're way too dramatic. Amelia laughed so hard she had to hold her chest. Jacob looked at Clara like he was trying to process a mathematical miracle. Marcos handed Clara a business card. If you ever need anything at all, call me. I owe you my life. Literally. He left, waving. Clara stared at the card like it was a magic artifact. Jacob stood up slowly, walked over to her. Clara, she looked at him, eyes shining. I didn't even remember him. I just helped because it was the right thing to do. I know. Jacob rested his hands on her shoulders. And that's what makes you amazing. Clara felt her heart race like a marathon. Jacob. Before she could continue, Amelia coughed, loudly, on purpose. Are you two going to stand there forever, or will you come give me a hug? They laughed and went to the bed. Amelia held both their hands. You see? She looked at Clara, then at Jacob. The universe takes care of those who take care of others. Clara wiped her eyes. Amelia, I'm trying not to cry, but this is too emotional. Cry, dear. Happy tears don't need to hide. And Clara cried. Jacob wrapped his arm around her, instinctive, protective. And Amelia smiled like someone who had just witnessed destiny falling into place. 2 hours later, Amelia was sleeping peacefully, Clara sitting in the chair beside the bed, and Jacob leaning against the wall, watching her like she was a mystery he couldn't solve. Did you know? He asked quietly. Know what? That everything you do always comes back to you. Clara shrugged. I don't do things expecting them to come back. I do them because... She looked at Amelia sleeping, because everyone deserves kindness, even when no one's watching. Jacob stayed silent for 5 full seconds. Then he said the sentence that would change everything. "I'm in love with you." Clara froze, looked at him like she'd just heard an alien language. "You what?" Jacob pushed off the wall and walked toward her. "I'm in love. With you. With the woman who saves delivery guys, helps cleaners, becomes a meme, and still shines brighter than anyone I know." Clara felt the world spin. "Jacob, the contract, 6 months, fake. I know." He knelt in front of her. "And I don't care, because I don't want fake. I want real. I want you." Before Clara could answer, Jacob's phone rang. He looked at the screen, and his expression completely changed. "No." "What is it?" He showed her the screen. An email from the board. Subject: emergency vote, CEO suspension. Clara felt her blood turn cold. "They can't. They can. And Blake just got enough votes." The door opened. Blake walked in, wearing a victorious smile. "Jacob. Clara. What a touching scene." He crossed his arms. "Too bad it's over." And Clara understood. The war had turned into the final battle, and she was ready to fight with everything she had. Clara had exactly 2 seconds to process the fact that Blake was standing there, smiling like a soap opera villain who had just revealed his master plan, before realizing she had 0 patience for that kind of drama. 2 seconds before she exploded. "You know what, Blake?" Clara jumped up so fast she nearly tipped over. Jacob caught her by reflex. "I've had enough." Blake raised an eyebrow, the "oh, how interesting" kind. "Enough of what exactly?" "You, your fake little smile, your cartoon villain energy." She pointed at him like a lawyer in court. "Seriously, do you wake up in the morning and think, 'I'll be evil today'? Or is that just your default setting?" Jacob nearly choked, trying not to laugh. Blake straightened his tie, uncomfortable. "I'm not." "You are. You're that character everyone hates but who insists on showing up in every episode." Clara crossed her arms. "And you know what happens to those characters in the end? They lose. Always. So dramatic." "Dramatic?" "You literally showed up at the hospital where your boss's mother is recovering just to announce he's being suspended. That's what's dramatic? Shakespeare-level drama." Blake looked at Jacob as if to say, "Are you going to let her talk to me like that?" Jacob shrugged. "She's got a point. Several points." Clara raised her fingers, counting. "Point 1, you're petty. Point 2, you're jealous. Point 3, your suit looks awful today." Blake glanced down at his suit, which probably cost $3,000. "My suit is awful, horrible. Looks like you got dressed in the dark." Clara was in full attack mode. "And you know why? Because bad people can't pull off nice clothes. The universe doesn't allow it." Jacob covered his mouth, trying to hide his laughter. Amelia woke up in bed, because no one can sleep through Clara yelling. "Sweetheart," she said, voice raspy but amused. "Breathe." "I am breathing, Amelia." Clara turned to her. "But it's angry breathing, warrior breathing." Blake let out that dry little laugh that meant, "She's pathetic." And that's when Clara had the most brilliant or most insane idea of her life. She grabbed her phone, she turned on the camera, and pointed it at Blake. "What are you doing?" Blake asked, clearly nervous. "Documenting." Clara smiled like an investigative reporter. "Because when you lose, and you will lose, I want to have the exact moment recorded when you thought you had won." "This is ridiculous." "You're ridiculous." Clara zoomed in on his face. "Look, everyone, this is Blake Harrison, Chief Financial Officer of Reynolds Corp, and also the guy who thinks destroying good people is a career strategy." Blake turned red as a tomato. "Turn that off." "No." Clara turned the camera toward Jacob. "And this is Jacob Reynolds, the best CEO this company has ever had, and he's being attacked by a man with less humanity than a cactus." Jacob looked at the camera as if deciding whether to laugh or call security. Amelia clapped her hands like a talk show audience. "I love this girl." Blake stepped forward, trying to grab Clara's phone. She dodged, tripped over her own bag, and somehow recovered like a clumsy ninja. "Oh no, you're not deleting my evidence." "Evidence of what?" "That you're, Clara searched for the perfect word. "Corporate gremlin." Silence. Jacob burst out laughing, a real doubled over the holding his stomach kind of laugh. Amelia laughed so hard the heart monitor beside her started beeping faster. Blake looked at them like, "I'm surrounded by lunatics." "Gremlin?" "Yes, gremlin." Clara slipped her phone into her pocket like a trophy. Small, annoying, and only causes trouble. Before Blake could reply, the door opened. A thin young man with round glasses, a backpack, and the confident energy of a tech genius walked in. He looked at Blake, then at Clara, and smiled. "Miss Winslow?" Clara blinked 3 times. "Yes? I'm Kevin, IT intern." He pulled a flash drive from his pocket like a secret agent. "I have something you need to see." Blake turned pale. "Kevin, what are you?" "I recovered deleted files from the server," Kevin said, handing the drive to Clara. 3 months of Mr. Harrison's emails, including, he looked at Blake with quiet judgment, plans to sabotage employees he considered a threat. The room went silent. Clara looked at the flash drive like it was a magic wand. "You're the intern I gave $5 to on my first day?" Kevin smiled. "That's me, and you saved my job when Blake tried to fire me for incompetence." He made air quotes. "But I'm not incompetent. I'm actually very good, and I document everything." Blake tried to leave. Jacob blocked the door. "You're not going anywhere." Clara plugged the flash drive into the laptop on the bedside table, because modern hospitals have Wi-Fi, and she was going to use it to her advantage. She opened the files and began to read out loud. Email 1. We need to find a way to discredit the new assistant before she gains influence. Blake grew paler. Email 2. I hired an external auditor to investigate irregularities. She'll find whatever I tell her to find. Jacob crossed his arms like a judge about to deliver a verdict. Email 3. If I can push Jacob aside, the board will appoint me interim CEO. Finally. Amelia's eyes widened. You planned all of this? Blake opened his mouth, closed it, opened again like a fish out of water. I can explain. Then explain. Clara stood, holding the laptop like courtroom evidence. Explain how you sabotaged good people. Explain how you manipulated the board. Explain how you're literally the worst person in this building. Blake looked at Jacob as a last resort. Jacob, we've worked together for years. We worked together, Jacob said, opening the door. You're fired right now. You can't. I can. And I will. Jacob pointed to the hallway. Security will escort you while you collect your things. And if you try to sue, I'll use these emails as evidence. Blake glared at Clara, as if saying this is your fault. Clara smiled like a victorious warrior. I warned you. Karma is real, and you just got the bill. Blake left, tail between his legs. The door closed. Silence. Then Amelia began clapping like a standing ovation. That's it. That's my daughter-in-law. Clara felt her face heat up. Amelia, we're not yet. Amelia winked at Jacob. But you will be, I can tell. Jacob looked at Clara as if he'd just seen a goddess of war in action. You're amazing. I was angry. Clara put away the laptop. And when I'm angry, I turn into an emotional She-Hulk. Kevin was still by the door, smiling. Miss Winslow, thank you for everything. Thank you. Clara hugged him. He turned as red as a tomato. You saved us. You saved me first. Kevin adjusted his glasses. I just returned the favor. He left. Clara turned to Jacob and Amelia. So we won? Jacob smiled, a real smile, the kind that lit up his whole face. We won. Clara began jumping like a child who just got a present. We won. We won. I'm a warrior. She tripped, fell down, sitting on the floor, looked up. Jacob and Amelia watching her. Classic. I'm fine. Just testing gravity. Still works. They burst out laughing, and in that moment, Clara understood. She had found her family. Messy, chaotic, perfect. At the company, Blake was clearing his desk when he got a call. Private number. He answered. Hello? Female voice, cold, calculating. Mr. Harrison. I heard you were fired. What a shame. But I have a proposal. One that will make Jacob Reynolds regret taking you out of the game. Blake smiled like someone who just won a second chance. I'm listening. And Clara didn't know yet, but the war had just entered the final round. Clara had exactly 48 hours to process that Blake had been fired. Jacob had declared love in the middle of the hospital, and that she had officially become a corporate legend known as the girl who took down the gremlin. 48 hours before discovering that the universe hadn't finished testing her. She was at her desk, now with a new nameplate that read Clara Winslow, personal assistant and certified warrior, a gift from Amelia, when her phone rang. Unknown number. Clara answered. Hello? Miss Winslow? Young, nervous female voice. This is Marina, Mrs. Reynolds' former assistant. Clara sat up straighter. Marina, hi, how are you? Long pause. I need to warn you about something. The tone made Clara's stomach tighten. Warn me about what? Blake hasn't given up. Marina spoke quickly, like she had little time. He hired someone dangerous, And they're planning something for this weekend. This weekend? In 2 days? Yes, at the company's charity event in Willow Springs. Clara knew Willow Springs, a small town 2 hours from San Francisco, known for pretty landscapes and charity events. What are they planning? I don't know exactly, but I heard Blake talk about exposing the fake marriage and destroying the Reynolds reputation once and for all. Clara felt her blood run cold. Marina, how do you know this? Because he called me asking for help. Trembling voice. And I said no, but Clara, he's desperate, and desperate people do dangerous things. Clara breathed in deeply. Thank you for warning me. Just be careful, okay? Marina hesitated. And Clara, you're a much better assistant than I was. Mrs. Reynolds is lucky to have you. Before Clara could reply, Marina hung up. Clara stared at her phone like it was a ticking bomb. Then she stood up and ran to Jacob's office, tripped on the hallway rug, recovered like an awkward ninja. She knocked on the door 3 times. Jacob. Emergency. He opened the door, black suit without a tie. Apparently he had given up pretending absolute formality. What happened? Blake is planning something for Saturday's event. Jacob pulled her into the office, closed the door. How do you know? Marina called. Your mother's ex-assistant. Clara paced like a nervous tiger. She said Blake wants to expose the fake marriage and ruin the family's reputation. Jacob crossed his arms, processing. If he exposes the contract, the board will question everything. My credibility, my mother's, the whole company. And I'll become the villain who faked a marriage for money. Clara stopped pacing. Jacob, I'll be canceled in real life. He almost smiled. Almost. No one will cancel you. You don't know the internet. The internet cancels even dogs that bark the wrong way. Jacob held her shoulders like an emotional anchor. Clara, breathe. I'm breathing. Breathe slowly. Clara took 3 deep breaths, exaggerated, forced yoga style. Okay, fine. I'm calm. 60% calm. Great. Jacob released her slowly. Now we're going to the event. Clara blinked 3 times. You want to go to the event where the guy is planning to destroy us? Yes, because if we don't go, he wins. Jacob looked at her with the expression of a general planning a battle. And I'm not letting him win. But what if he has false evidence? Or paid witnesses? Or then we improvise? Jacob gave that almost smile. You're great at that. Clara looked at him. You've gone mad. Jacob, I'm great at accidental disasters. Not planned ones. Same energy, just intentional. Before Clara could answer, Jacob's phone rang. He answered. Mom? Clara saw his expression change. What? When? He hung up, looked at Clara. Storm. Category 3. It will hit Willow Springs tomorrow night. But the event is tomorrow night. I know. Jacob grabbed his car keys. And my mother is already there. She went early to oversee the decorations. Clara felt her heart start to race. We need to go. Now. Exactly. They ran to the elevator. Clara tripped twice, and Jacob caught her both times. They got in the car. Jacob drove like a race car driver. Halfway there, Clara looked at him. Jacob, what if we don't make it in time? He kept his eyes on the road. We will. How do you know? Because the universe wouldn't put you through all this just to let you fall now. Clara's eyes burned. You believe in the universe now? Jacob looked at her for 2 seconds and smiled. A real smile. I believe in you, and you believe in the universe. So, technically, yes. Clara started to laugh. Nervous, emotional laughter. You're becoming human. More and more human every day. Your fault. I'll take the blame. They laughed together. And for a moment, Clara forgot about the storm, about Blake, about the danger. Because she was there, with Jacob Reynolds, driving like an action movie hero to save his mother. And it was perfect. Until the tire blew. The car skidded. Jacob controlled it like a professional, and stopped on the side of the road. They got out. The tire was completely flat. Rain started to fall like the universe giving them a warning. Clara looked up at the sky. Seriously, universe? Really? We're trying to save someone and you blow a tire? Jacob opened the trunk searching for the spare. Clara, we have a problem. Just one? Because I count at least 3. There's no spare tire. Silence. Clara stared at him. You're joking. What do you mean, no spare? You're a CEO. CEOs have spare tires. I forgot to replace it after the last time. Jacob Reynolds forgot something? Clara covered her mouth, pretending to be shocked. You're becoming too human. Before he could answer, a delivery truck stopped behind them. The door opened, and out stepped Marcos, the delivery guy. Clara's eyes widened. Marcos? He smiled like a superhero who had just arrived at the perfect time. "Miss Clara, Mr. Reynolds." He looked at the tire. "Need some help?" "We do," desperately. Clara pointed to the tire like it was a crime scene. "The universe blew our tire, and we need to get to Willow Springs before the storm." Marcos didn't hesitate. "Get in the truck, I'll take you." Jacob looked at him, doubtful. "You'd really do that?" "Of course." Marcos looked at Clara. "She helped me. Now it's my turn to return the favor." Again. Clara's eyes filled with tears. "Marcos, you're an angel disguised as a delivery guy." They climbed into the truck. It smelled like pizza and hope. Marcos hit the gas, and Clara, sitting between Jacob and Marcos, realized something. Everyone she had helped was coming back. Right when she needed them most, she looked at Jacob. He looked back. And without saying a word, he intertwined his fingers with hers. A small gesture, but it said everything. They arrived in Willow Springs 40 minutes later, rain pouring hard, wind howling, and the event hall already in evacuation mode. Clara jumped out of the truck, slipped in a puddle, and Jacob caught her. "Where's Amelia?" A staff member shouted back. "She's still inside. She refuses to leave, says she needs to protect the donations." Jacob ran. Clara ran after him, shoes soaked, hair a wild storm of its own, but determination like a warrior's. They burst into the hall, and there was Amelia in her wheelchair, alone, holding a donation box like it was treasure. "Mom!" Jacob ran to her. "We need to go." "No!" Amelia pointed at the box. "These donations are for the children. I won't let the storm take them." Clara looked at the box, then at the storm outside, then at Jacob, and made the most insane or the most Clara decision of her life. "Fine, then we save everything. Together." And that's when the most beautiful chaos Willow Springs had ever seen began. Clara, Jacob, and Amelia, plus Marcos, who refused to leave, formed a human chain, passing donation boxes to the truck as the storm raged like a movie villain. Clara slipped 3 times. Jacob caught her all 3. Amelia shouted orders like a war general. Marcos carried boxes like a modern-day Hercules. And when the last box was safe, they collapsed on the truck floor, drenched, exhausted, laughing like a bunch of lunatics. "We did it," Clara shouted, arms open in triumph. "We saved the children." Amelia clapped like an audience, giving a standing ovation. Jacob looked at Clara like he had just witnessed a miracle. And then, without warning, he pulled her in and kissed her, right there, in the back of the pizza truck, soaked, with Amelia and Marcos watching like the audience of a romantic movie. When he pulled away, Clara froze in shock. "You kissed me." "I know. In front of your mother." "I know." "And Marcos." Marcos waved. "Go ahead, I don't mind." Clara started to laugh, that uncontrollable, post-chaos kind of laughter. "Jacob Reynolds just kissed me in a pizza truck." Amelia wiped her eyes, crying and laughing at the same time. "I knew it. I always knew it." And at that moment, with the storm raging outside, the donations saved, and the taste of Jacob still on her lips, Clara understood. The universe hadn't been testing her. It had been preparing her. For this moment. For this family. For this love. 3 hours later, when the storm had passed and they returned to the ballroom, Blake was there, smiling like someone who thought he'd won. And next to him stood a journalist with a camera rolling, Jacob Reynolds. Blake said loud enough for everyone to hear, "It's time for the truth. Tell everyone here. Is your marriage to Clara Winslow real? Or is it a fraud?" Silence. Clara felt the floor disappear beneath her. Jacob looked at her, then at Blake, and smiled, like someone who had just had the best idea of his life. "You want the truth, Blake?" "I do." Jacob took Clara's hand and said the sentence that changed everything. "The truth is, I'm completely, hopelessly, absolutely in love with her. And if you think that's fraud, then you've clearly never loved anyone in your life." Blake went pale. The journalist turned off her camera. "This story just got too good to ruin," she said. "And Clara?" Clara pulled Jacob in and kissed him back. Right there, in front of everyone. Because some truths don't need contracts, only courage. Clara had exactly 3 seconds to process the fact that she had just kissed Jacob Reynolds in front of 50 people, a journalist, and Blake, who looked like he'd just swallowed a lemon, before realizing the whole ballroom had erupted into applause. 3 seconds before becoming a meme again, but this time, in the best way possible. She pulled away from Jacob slowly, her face red as a tomato. "I just did that in front of everyone." Jacob smiled like someone who had just won life's lottery. "You did, and it was perfect." "Perfect? Jacob, my timing is terrible." The worst in the universe. I disagree. He cupped her face in both hands, a movie-worthy gesture that made 3 people audibly sigh. Your timing is exactly what I needed. Blake took 3 steps back like a defeated villain in a drama. This isn't over. Oh, it's over. Clara turned toward him, still holding Jacob's hand. You lost, Blake. Accept it. Gracefully, with dignity, or at least without looking like a sulking child. The journalist, who had turned her camera back on because the story was too good, stepped closer. Miss Winslow, can I ask you a question? Clara looked at the camera like a deer caught in headlights. Depends. Is it a good question or one that's going to make me a meme again? The journalist laughed. A good one, I promise. She adjusted the microphone. How would you describe your relationship with Jacob Reynolds? Clara looked at Jacob. Jacob looked back. You've got this. Clara took a deep breath. Honestly? She looked straight at the camera. It started fake, signed contract, separate rooms, let's pretend for 6 months. But then, her eyes began to water. I got to know the real him, the man who forgets to eat when he's focused, who defends his employees when no one's watching, who drives through a storm to save his mother. And I realized that, her voice trembled. Pretending to love Jacob Reynolds was impossible, because I ended up loving him for real, without even noticing. Silence. The journalist wiped a tear discreetly. Jacob looked at Clara like he just heard the most beautiful words in the world. And then he did something no one expected. He knelt. Right there, in front of everyone, on the still wet floor of the post-storm ballroom. Clara froze. Jacob, what are you doing? He pulled a small box from his pocket, one he'd apparently been carrying all along. Opened it, a diamond ring that sparkled like a captured star. Clara Winslow. His voice was steady, but filled with emotion. You saved my mother from a pigeon, became a corporate meme, took down the villain with a flash drive and courage, and you taught me that the universe really does look after those who look after others. He smiled, as if finally understanding life. So, will you turn this fake contract into a real marriage? Clara covered her mouth with both hands, tears streaming down like an emotional waterfall. You're really proposing to me? I am, in front of everyone, so no one will ever doubt it again. But I'm a disaster. I trip over everything. I talk too loud. I become a meme every 3 days. Jacob stood up, still holding the ring. I know, and I love you exactly for that. The room went silent. Clara looked at the ring, at Jacob, at the invisible universe that had clearly planned this from the pigeon onward, and shouted, Yes, 1,000 times yes, 1,000,000 times yes. Jacob slipped the ring onto her finger, her hands shaking so much he had to steady them, and kissed her again. This time to applause, cheers, and Amelia crying like a proud mother in a TV wedding. When they finally pulled apart, Clara looked at the ring as if it were something magical. Jacob, is this real? I'm not going to wake up and find out it was a caffeine-induced dream, am I? It's real. He rested his forehead against hers. And you'll have to deal with me forgetting to eat for the rest of our lives. I'll set alarms on your phone. 12 of them, all named Eat Something Robot. He laughed. For real. That kind of laughter that lights up his whole face. And Clara realized she had made Jacob Reynolds laugh. For real. And that was worth more than any fairy tale. 2 hours later, storm over, donations safe, and Blake escorted out of the event by security. Because yes, he tried to steal a canapé. Clara was sitting in the garden of the venue with Amelia. Stars were starting to appear in the clear sky after the storm. Amelia held Clara's hand like it was treasure. Did you know? Clara asked softly. From the beginning, did you know we'd fall in love? Amelia smiled like someone who had already seen the future. I knew that you two didn't know yet, but the universe, she looked up at the sky. The universe knew since the pigeon. Clara laughed, the kind of laugh mixed with happy tears. That ridiculous pigeon changed my life. It wasn't the pigeon, dear. Amelia squeezed her hand. It was you. You chose to jump in. You chose to help. You chose to believe that good things come back. And they did. Twice as strong. Clara wiped her eyes. Amelia, thank you for believing in me when no one else did. Thank you. Amelia pulled her into a hug, like a mother finally holding the daughter she always wanted. For giving me the best gift I could ever receive, seeing my son happy again. They stayed like that for 5 whole minutes. A hug that healed years of loneliness on both sides. When they finally pulled apart, Jacob appeared with 3 glasses of champagne. Apparently, he'd become the emotional waiter of the evening. "A toast?" he offered. Clara took her glass, almost dropped it. Jacob caught it, reflexes sharp as always. Amelia raised hers like a queen giving a speech. "I'd like to toast." She looked at Clara, then at Jacob. "To the woman fate insisted on bringing into our lives. And to the son who finally learned how to feel again." Jacob lifted his glass. "I toast to the universe, and to the woman who taught me to trust it." Clara looked at her glass, at the stars, at the 2 of them, and said the line that would close the whole story. "I toast to the pigeon, the most disgusting and efficient matchmaker in history." They burst into laughter. They toasted. And at that moment, with stars above, champagne in hand, and love all around, Clara finally understood. The universe doesn't charge. It trades. You give kindness, you receive love. You give courage, you receive a future. You give your heart, you receive family. And she had given it all. So the universe gave back, in the form of Jacob Reynolds, Amelia, and a life she never thought she deserved. But she did. She always did. She just needed to believe it. 6 months later, the Garden of the Wings of Grace Foundation, which Amelia and Clara created together to help young people without opportunities. A simple wedding. 50 guests, white flowers, blue sky, and a pigeon watching from afar like a silent godfather. Clara stood at the altar, simple white dress, loose hair, nervous smile, holding the bouquet like an emotional weapon. Jacob stood before her, black suit, no tie, eyes shining like, "I'm the luckiest man in the universe." Amelia sat in the first row, crying like a mother in a primetime soap opera. Marcos, Mrs. Sita, Kevin, and 15 others Clara had helped over the years, all there, witnessing. The officiant, a friend of Amelia's who agreed to lead the informal ceremony, smiled. "Did either of you prepare vows?" Clara looked at Jacob. "Did you?" Jacob shrugged. "I was going to improvise." She laughed. "I'll go first." Clara took a deep breath. "Jacob Reynolds, you're a workaholic. You forget to eat, and you have serious trouble expressing emotions." The guests laughed. "But you're also the most loyal, brave, and secretly sweet man I've ever met. And I promise to remind you to eat, to make you laugh every day, and to love you even when you're in full corporate robot mode." Jacob discreetly wiped his eyes, but everyone saw. "My turn." He held her hands. "Clara Winslow, you trip over everything, you yell too much, and you become a meme at an alarming rate." More laughter. "But you're also the most courageous, kind, and brilliant person I've ever known. And I promise to catch you when you fall, laugh with you, not at you, and love you exactly the way you are, chaotic and perfect." Clara started crying, ugly tears, but beautiful ones. I love you more." "Impossible, proven." The officiant coughed. "Folks, I'm still here." "Right. So by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." Jacob pulled Clara close and kissed her like it was the final scene of a movie that wins an Oscar. The guests erupted in applause. The pigeon on the roof made a sound, coo-coo, which Clara swore was approval. And when they pulled apart, Jacob leaned his forehead against hers and whispered the line that would become legend. "Okay, universe, now it's my turn to pay you back." Clara laughed, threw back. He pointed to his heart. "By loving her, every day, the way she deserves." And the universe, from above, smiled. Because the mission was complete. The young woman who once saved the billionaire CEO's mother had become the daughter-in-law. And more than that, she had become the woman who taught an entire family to believe in destiny again. 1 year later, Clara walked into Jacob's office, which now always had the door open, holding a small box. "Honey, I have some news." Jacob looked up from the papers, which he now organized much better, thanks to Clara. "Good or bad? Depends." She placed the box on his desk. "Are you ready to stop forgetting to eat and start preparing baby bottles?" Jacob looked at the box, opened it, saw the positive pregnancy test, and smiled like the sunrise. "We're having a baby? We're having a baby." He stood up, lifted her in his arms, and spun her around like a scene from a romantic movie. "I'm going to be a dad, and I'm going to be a mom." Clara held his face. "And our child will be half robot, half chaos." "Perfect." They laughed, kissed, and outside, on the 12th floor window, a pigeon landed. Looked inside, made that sound, cuckoo, then flew away. Mission accomplished. Again. Because the universe never really stops working. It just waits for you to believe. And Clara? Clara had believed since that very first dive. And that's how the story of Clara Winslow ends, the girl who saved an old lady from a pigeon and ended up gaining an entire family. But before you go, I have a few questions for you. What did you think of Jacob's transformation, from robotic CEO to loving husband who forgets to change the spare tire? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I read them all and love hearing what you think. On a scale from 0 to 10, what score would you give this story? Be honest. Your feedback helps us keep bringing you even better stories. And if you enjoyed this tale of love, karma, and destiny's pigeons, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss more stories like this one. We have many more amazing stories waiting for you. Unlikely romances, unexpected twists, happy endings that will make you believe in the universe again. See you in the next story. And remember, sometimes all you need is to believe that good things come back, even if it all starts with a pigeon.